In this video I'm creating a basic version of my main character, specifically the blueprinting of it. The model creation will be in a future video as I have yet to do it. To begin with, I'm creating a copy of the original character. This is so I'm free to mess around and test stuff without worrying about breaking the character or game. Although I don't use this during this session as much, as I already know what I need to do, it's still a good habit to get into, especially during this stage where I'm doing a lot of testing and messing around. Now I'm just checking out to make sure it's all okay. I did forget that I needed to import skeletal mesh. I do work around this by having no mesh for now and just having a static mesh stand-in. So the inherited mesh of the character blueprint won't actually have anything in it. With that being said, I'll wait till I'm done messing around and stop making the character till I begin talking again. Just a quick note, I'm starting making the static mesh stand-in. I'm using the geometry tool as that is, as far as I know, the only way to make a static mesh in Unreal. I'm just trying to get all the basic proportions right for the design of my character, as I already have a pretty good understanding of this from my concept work. Now, although this isn't the same at the moment, it will work fine as a stand-in. Now that I've finished making the static mesh, that's all I really need to do. The sockets and collisions you're about to see me make are just me messing around some more, testing how it works, seeing if anything new happens or learn something, just that sort of stuff. This isn't relevant to the actual creation of the character, as I don't use the sockets or the collisions, and as I said, the collisions are already sorted inside the character blueprint. Saying that, I would like to mention that these videos are my first attempt trying to create the subject. I do have some research notes on the side to give me a basic guideline, but a lot of the ideas come up on the spot. Although this is different with the procedural generation video, as this took me a lot longer to record, so most of it was cut. I mention all this as whenever you see a long pause, that's me going over my notes or blog posts, etc. So now I'm using the actual static mesh stand-in. This is, as I said, I forgot to use a skeletal mesh, so this will work fine as the stand-in. Now the next thing I need to do is actually make it so I can play this character. Easiest way to do this was copy over the same blueprints that the original post used. Now I run into a compile error because the variables don't actually transfer over to the thing, so I have to repair that. I could make new variables, but if there is actually a function in the blueprinting system where you can just copy over, it doesn't retain the values, so you do have to change them manually as well if you want to have it work the exact same way. This is important for any of my future blueprints, and I've already known this, but it's still a good thing to mention. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just testing to see if the character works. What I noticed is obviously I didn't spawn in as the new character. This is because I need to actually change the character I'm using on the game mode settings, as you can see I'm doing here. Once that was done, I still wasn't spawning in, this is because I needed to make sure everything was saved, and I deleted the character, and I needed to delete the character from the level. It's not too hard, but as I said, it skipped over my head a bit, and I missed it. So now that I actually was spawning in as the character, as you can see I got stuck in the ground. This is because the character wasn't high enough. So I'm just trying to make sure that when I spawn in I don't fall on the ground like I've been doing again. This is just purely because obviously the procedural generation spawns the level in over time, and so if I fall while I'm in the middle of it, I'll get stuck there. I now landed perfectly on it and I'm fine. However, as you notice, I can't actually walk. I can look around, but I can't actually move. This is just because I need to add a camera for my character to possess. As you can see, I added the camera so that it's best. I also made sure I added a boom arm, or spring arm, sorry. That's just to make sure that the rotation zone and everything worked fine. I forgot to check the setting, but I will come back to it soon. You can see it on the camera settings. As I said, you'll see me change that later, but that's why the rotation looks so weird and I can't look up or down because it's not actually getting the rotation. But apart from that, everything works exactly as intended, and technically the character is all working. This is just me, again, testing, you know, seeing if everything works, what's not working, what looks like what, and just testing a load of random stuff and just making sure, doing multiple tests. But with that, the character technically is working fine, just from new. So now I'm actually going to start creating the more combat side of it. What I'm doing here is I'm creating the basic, I guess, look or mesh of the thing. I'm not using a static mesh this time, I'm just using the basic cubes you get, well, the basic materials, I guess, you get in the blueprinting components. I started with the collision box, as that is actually going to be what is the main thing of it. And I made it a child just so if I want a smaller or bigger arrow, I don't have to change both of them. It just makes my life a lot easier, and it's just a good habit. Now I added a projectile movement. This is just so, this will be the arrow of sorts. It will allow me to actually shoot it like an arrow. All I did to change was I changed the gravity so it didn't drop as hard, and the speed of it so it moved pretty fast. I might change this, but I'm pretty sure I don't. Now I'm just creating a bow. The bow is super simple. I just wanted it as like a stand-in of what it would kind of like, the portions of it. So now I'm bringing them into the actual level. This is just so I can test in comparison to how they look relative to the character. So as you can immediately see, the bow and arrow are much too big for the character. So that is something that I'll definitely need to change. Now I'm adding an arrow. This is literally just so, now that I'm about to start doing the blueprinting, it's so when the arrow fires, it'll know which direction to go in. As you can see, I'm just testing the proportions, seeing what everything looks like, and it's all okay, and it looks perfectly fine. So now I'm actually starting the blueprinting of how I'm going to get the arrow to fire. So I'm starting off with 3 custom events. Now, technically, I really only needed 1. But the other 2 will come in handy later. I could have also not used fire, but I like to keep things simple. I could have also used a function, but I feel that fire did a good enough job as it worked. Now, as you're about to see me mention using the comment system, the hold arrow will be more relevant when I'm making the actual combat of the game, which will hopefully be the video after this. along with like how adding in a test box enemy and making sure the damage system works fine. The delay on the release arrow, so the idea is you hold the arrow and then shoot it off. The delay is just to make sure that if you spam click and you click multiple times, you can't fire loads of arrows at once. It still takes you however long I want it to be before you can fire again. So now that I'm actually in the character, I want to have the weapon on the character so you can use it from that. So all I'm really doing is similar to how the bow works. I'm just spawning in the actor and then I'm going to attach it to an arrow that you see me making now. This is just so, like with the bow shooting the arrow, it's so the bow knows where to spawn, the direction of it. It's just simple things like that on the actual character. Now, as you can see, I'm making a variable here. This is similar to casting. Now that I actually have a value that returns the blueprint, I can actually use that as a set variable, so I can then call upon it later, which you're about to see me do, to actually reference something inside of it. Specifically, what I'm trying to reference here is the events, and so what triggers them. And so the idea here is you click the left mouse button, and as you're holding it, it holds the arrow, and then when you release it, it shoots it. Works perfectly fine. Worked first time perfectly. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you liked it as well, and I'll see you very soon for the more enhanced combat version of it, where I would be trying to make a basic enemy goblin along with more complicated firing of the arrows, like as I said, holding it to maybe increase damage or something like that. Hope you have a good day, and I'll see you in the next one.